What happened next was something that Karen never saw coming. She had no idea who she was really trying to evict. Soon, the place was swarming with FBI agents, and their badges were everywhere. It turns out my simple rancher's wife had been keeping a little secret from me. Let me tell you how it all started. 6 months ago, a woman named Deborah Reynolds moved in just down the road. From the very first day, there was something strange about her. My wife, Amelia, who I thought worked a boring government desk job, seemed especially interested in our new neighbor. Looking back, I should have paid more attention to that. You see, my wife and I had been living a peaceful life on our 5-acre horse ranch for 15 years. My name is John, by the way, and I'm just a simple guy who trains horses and likes to keep to himself. I thought I knew everything about my wife, Amelia, but after 15 years of marriage, it turned out she still had one tiny secret. Our ranch had been the perfect getaway for 15 years. It was just us, our horses, and the kind of quiet you can only find miles away from the city. We bought the property right after our wedding, back when this area was just farmland with a few old barns scattered around. Our closest neighbor was Billy Jenkins, a 70-year-old man who lived about half a mile away. He had surprisingly become a social media star, with 500,000 followers on his video channel where he posted daily updates about life in the country. People loved his mix of old-fashioned wisdom and surprising knowledge of technology. Life was simple and predictable, just the way we liked it. Then Deborah Reynolds showed up, and everything changed. She bought the old Henderson place, about 500 meters down the dirt road from us. The for sale sign was barely down before she started making her presence known. I first saw her on a Tuesday morning. I was working with a young horse in the training ring when a silver sedan, far too clean and new for our dusty roads, pulled up to our gate. A woman in her mid-50s, wearing a business suit and carrying a clipboard like it was a weapon, stepped out. "Nice horses," she said, wrinkling her nose. "In my last neighborhood, the HOA banned roosters for being too loud. I can't imagine what they'd think of horses." I walked over, wiping my hands on my jeans. "John Miller," I said, introducing myself. "Welcome to the area." She smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "Deborah Reynolds. I'm starting the Oak Valley Homeowners Association. This area needs some organization and standards." I laughed, thinking she had to be joking. "Ma'am, this is farmland. We don't have an HOA out here." Her smile tightened. "Well, that's about to change. I've already started the paperwork." She then spent the next 20 minutes taking pictures of our property from every angle and scribbling notes on her clipboard. By the time she left, I had a strange, uneasy feeling in my stomach. That evening, I told Amelia about our new neighbor. She looked up from her laptop, suddenly very interested. "Reynolds, Deborah Reynolds, and she's starting in HOA." The way she said it made me pause. "Yeah, why?" Amelia just shook her head slowly. "Just interesting." "Did she give you any paperwork?" "Not yet," I replied. My wife went back to her laptop, and I saw her fingers flying across the keyboard much faster than usual. "Keep anything she gives you," she advised. "Document everything." 2 days later, the first letter arrived. It was on homemade letterhead with a poorly designed logo for the Oak Valley Homeowners Association. The letter welcomed us to the new HOA and came with an invoice for $200 in monthly fees. Billy, our neighbor, stopped by that afternoon to borrow some tools. When I showed him the letter, he let out a low whistle. "Son, I've lived here for 43 years, and this is the first I've ever heard of an HOA." He immediately posted about it on his channel. His viewers started calling her a classic Karen. One of them even commented, "You know what else?" Someone at the hardware store said she sued a school in Arizona because kids were laughing too loud during recess. Billy just shook his head. Woman's trouble. He pulled out his phone to show me the comments on his new video. "Look at this. 50,000 views already. People love drama, and this lady is bringing it." But I still didn't understand what Deborah really wanted with our quiet ranch. Why was this woman so obsessed, and what was she really planning? If you've ever had a neighbor from hell, type Karen in the comments. The situation got worse faster than a spooked horse. Within a week, Deborah had created a 50-page document She called the Oak Valley HOA rules and regulations. It was all typed in the Comic Sans font, which should have been a crime by itself. She hand-delivered it to our mailbox at 6 in the morning with a sticky note that said, "Please review ASAP. Compliance required within 30 days. I made the mistake of actually reading it during my morning coffee. The rules were crazy. All fences had to be painted beige within 60 days. The grass had to be kept at exactly 2 inches high. And the worst part, a maximum of 2 horses per property, with a complete ban on any other livestock." I was still shaking my head at how absurd it was when Amelia came into the kitchen. She took one look at the document, and her expression turned ice cold. "She's escalating quickly," she said, taking pictures of each page with her phone. "This isn't just a nosy neighbor. Things got even worse when Deborah found an ally. She recruited Mark, another newcomer who had bought land nearby just 2 months ago. She convinced him that the HOA was real, and that joining would make his property more valuable. They showed up at our front gate on a Saturday morning for what Deborah called an emergency HOA meeting. She had brought a portable speaker and was live-streaming the whole thing. "I call this emergency meeting to order," she announced to her camera. "As president of the Oak Valley HOA, I move to address the serious issue of commercial livestock operations in our residential community. I called out from where I was watching. "Lady, this is agricultural land." She ignored me completely. "All in favor of requiring the immediate stop of horse breeding and training operations." She and Mark both raised their hands. "Motion passes to 2-0. You have 30 days to comply or face daily fines of $100. By then, Billy had wandered over, his phone already out and streaming to his followers. He was translating for his viewers with a caption on the screen. Within minutes, his video had thousands of views and hundreds of comments. The video Deborah posted, however, was edited to make us look like the villains, with a title that read, "Exposing the Truth: How One Ranch is Destroying Our Neighborhood Values." The comment section on her post exploded with debates. Meanwhile, Amelia was quietly taking notes on everything, screenshotting posts, and building what looked like a legal case file. "Why are you documenting all this?" I asked her one evening, as she was organizing printed emails and photos into folders. "Evidence," she said simply. "Trust me, you want a paper trail when dealing with someone like this." She had also started installing high-end security cameras around our property. "Far more than seemed necessary. These are really fancy," I noted. "Where did you even find them?" "Online," she said vaguely. "Special deal for government employees." The breaking point came when Deborah sent a formal cease and desist letter, demanding we stop all horse-related activities immediately. It was filled with legal-sounding nonsense about covenant violations and community standards degradation. "I'm calling our lawyer," I said, crumpling the letter in frustration. Amelia gently took it from my hand, smoothing it out. "Not yet," she said, that cold look back in her eyes. "Let me handle this my way first. I have some connections that might help." By the end of that week, Billy's videos about the fake HOA lady had over 50,000 views. His followers were totally invested in our drama, sharing their own HOA horror stories and offering advice. None of us knew that Deborah's harassment was about to take a very illegal turn. But why did my wife's expression suddenly turn ice cold when she read that threatening letter? Something wasn't right. Can you spot the red flags? Comment what you think. I wanted to lawyer up immediately, but Amelia kept insisting she had it under control. "Just give me a week," she said. "Trust me on this one." I trusted my wife completely. 15 years of marriage will do that. But I couldn't understand what a government desk worker could possibly do that a lawyer couldn't. Then the weird stuff started happening. It began small. Deborah's live streams about our dangerous ranch kept cutting out at the worst possible moments. She'd be in the middle of a rant about property values and horse manure, when her connection would suddenly fail. The frustrated screams we could hear from half a mile away were almost worth the harassment. "Technical difficulties," she'd post later, accusing us of sabotaging her internet. But how could we? We were horse people, not hackers. The next incident was even stranger. The Oak Valley HOA social media page was somehow renamed to fake HOA Do Not Trust overnight. Deborah posted frantically that she had been hacked and demanded the platform restore her official page. But whoever changed it had also updated all the documents to show the page's true purpose. A satirical page about fake homeowners associations. Even better, her home printer started acting up. According to Mark, who told us about it at the gas station, the printer would randomly spit out pages in the middle of the night. But these weren't just any pages. They were memes calling her Karen of the Year and HOA Queen of Nothing. The situation reached a boiling point when Deborah received a mysterious email. It read, "We know what you did in Arizona and New Mexico and Nevada. Stop now, or everyone else will know too." She immediately went to the police, claiming cyber terrorism and harassment. "I know because a detective called me the next day, Mr. Miller. Mrs. Reynolds is claiming you hired hackers to terrorize her. Do you know anything about these incidents, detective?" "I train horses for a living," I told him honestly. "I can barely figure out how to update my phone. I don't even know what a hacker looks like." He seemed satisfied, especially after I mentioned that Deborah had been harassing us with fake HOA documents. Meanwhile, I started noticing changes in Amelia's behavior. She was staying up late working on her laptop, but the screen just showed normal things like shopping websites, recipe blogs, and work emails. Nothing suspicious at all. There were also phone calls at odd hours. Her cell would ring. She'd glance at it and say, "Work stuff," before declining the call or texting back. "Government work," she'd explain with a shrug. "Everything's always urgent to someone." It all seemed perfectly normal, which, in hindsight, should have been my first clue that something was very wrong. Billy's latest video about the situation had gone viral in our small community. One of his captions read, "Y'all, Karen is losing it. Claims she's being hacked by horse ranchers." The video hit 100,000 views in just 2 days, with comments pouring in from all over the world. The attention seemed to make Deborah even more unhinged. She started posting wild theories about us running a tech-savvy crime ring, disguised as a horse ranch. The final straw came when I was doing laundry and emptied Amelia's jacket pockets. I found a receipt, some mints, and a black card that looked like a hotel key card. It seemed like nothing special when Amelia came home from work. I mentioned it casually. "Found your key card in the laundry. Which hotel is it from?" She glanced at it and smiled. "Oh, that's just my government building access card. Super boring. They make them look fancy now. But it's basically just to get in the parking garage." She tucked it into her wallet without any fuss, and I forgot about it. "Amelia, what's really going on?" I asked her that night. "Deborah's getting worse. She's talking about bringing in inspectors and calling state authorities." My wife sat down beside me and took my hands. "John, I promise you, it's being handled. Sometimes these things resolve themselves when people go too far. And Deborah, she's definitely about to go too far." "How can you be so sure?" I asked. "Call it intuition," she said with a mysterious smile. "Plus, Billy's videos are documenting everything. It's hard to lie when there's video evidence, right?" She was right, of course, but I had no idea just how spectacularly Deborah was about to go too far. What was on that mysterious black card that made her snatch it away so quickly? The plot was getting thicker. This is where it gets insane. Deborah's next move was so bold and completely over the top that even I didn't see it coming. She hired an actor to pose as a county HOA compliance officer. The guy showed up on a Wednesday afternoon in a rented uniform, complete with a fake badge and an official-looking clipboard. He had the nerve to walk right onto our property without permission, taking photos and making dramatic notes while shaking his head in disapproval. I was in the barn when I heard a strange voice booming across the yard. "This property is in violation of multiple county codes." I jogged over to find a man in his 40s dressed in what looked like a security guard uniform, with patches sewn on. He was standing in front of our house, taking pictures. "Excuse me," I called out. "This is private property. Who are you?" He puffed up his chest importantly, flashing a badge so quickly I couldn't read it. "County HOA Compliance Division. I'm here about multiple violations filed by the Oak Valley Homeowners Association." You need to cease all operations immediately, or face fines up to $50,000. There's no such thing as a county HOA compliance division. Amelia's voice came from behind me. She had appeared from the house, her phone already in her hand. The way she carried herself was different now, confident and authoritative. I work for the government. I know every department in this county. You're not one of them. The man's face turned red. I'll have you know I have full authority, really, Amelia interrupted, her fingers moving quickly across her phone screen. Because I just called the county office. They've never heard of you. She paused, looking at him more closely. You look very familiar. Weren't you in that community theater production of Law and Order last month? The fake inspector's confident act instantly crumbled. His shoulders sagged, and he took a step back. There must be some confusion. No confusion, Amelia said, calmly, already dialing. Just fraud. Hello, 911? We have someone on our property impersonating a government official. Yes, we'll wait for officers to arrive. The man tried to leave, but I moved to block his path to the car. Oh no, you're staying right here until the real authorities arrive. Please, he begged. I needed the money. She said it was for a reality show. He cracked like an egg when the police showed up. She paid me $500. He blurted out before they even asked. Deborah Reynolds said it was for a reality show about difficult neighbors. I thought it was legitimate. She gave me a script and everything. He pulled out his phone and showed the officers a long chain of messages from Deborah, complete with payment receipts and detailed instructions on what violations to find on our property. The script was especially damning. She had literally written out what he should say, including the specific threat of a $50,000 fine. Deborah showed up just as they were putting the actor in the patrol car. Her face was a mask of furious anger, which quickly turned to panic when she saw the scene. Officers, this is a misunderstanding. I hired him, yes, but I was told he was a legitimate inspector. I've been scammed, too, ma'am, the senior officer said patiently. He has screenshots of you explaining that this was a pretend inspection to scare them into compliance. That's conspiracy to commit fraud. I was joking. It was taken out of context. She shrieked, pointing wildly at us. They're the ones running an illegal operation. Mark, who had shown up to support her, began backing away slowly. I need to go. I just remembered I have somewhere to be. He practically ran to his truck, clearly realizing he'd been tricked. The officers let Deborah go with a stern warning that any more harassment would lead to criminal charges. She left screaming about lawsuits and her connections in high places, but the damage to her reputation was done. Billy's video of the incident, titled Fake Inspector Gets Busted, Karen's Plan Backfires, spread through the community like wildfire. 200,000 views. Billy told me proudly the next day, my followers are calling this the best series ever. Better than any TV show. That evening, I found Amelia in her home office, calmly organizing paperwork as if she hadn't just exposed a massive fraud scheme. With the skill of a professional investigator. How did you know to check if he was an actor? I asked. And how did you stay so calm? She looked up at me with that mysterious smile. I told you I work for the government. You learned to spot fake officials. Plus, his badge number was obviously made up. It had too many digits. Amelia, she's not going to stop. I said, this kind of public humiliation. She's going to do something desperate. I know. My wife said quietly, tomorrow morning, probably, she'll want to act while she's still angry, before she loses her nerve. How can you possibly know that? I asked, though by now I was starting to realize my wife knew a lot more than she let on. Because I've seen this pattern before, she explained. When people like Deborah feel their control slipping, they make their biggest mistakes. And John, whatever happens tomorrow, just trust me, even if it looks bad at first. How did Amelia know exactly what would happen next? And why weren't the police surprised when she called? Anyone else getting suspicious about Amelia? Tell me your theory below. Just as Amelia predicted, Deborah showed up at 6:30 the next morning, and this time she brought a whole group with her. 3 police cars pulled onto our property, their lights flashing but their sirens off. Deborah emerged from her silver sedan in a power suit so red it could have stopped traffic. She was carrying a portable speaker and a stack of official-looking papers. The morning sun caught her hair, which was styled perfectly despite the early hour, and her makeup was flawless. She had clearly spent hours preparing for this moment. About 30 neighbors had gathered, drawn by the spectacle and Deborah's social media posts, which had promised, "Justice will be served today." She had been posting all night, building up the drama and promising her followers they would witness the restoration of law and order. Billy was already there, phone out, live streaming to his massive following. He had positioned himself on a small hill for the best angle, wearing his lucky flannel shirt, the one he wore for all his most popular videos. "It's going down," he announced to his viewers. "The Karen has called in reinforcements. I've already got 20,000 watching live, and it's not even 7 in the morning." He panned his camera across the crowd, showing the mix of curious neighbors, early morning joggers who had stopped to watch, and even a few people in bathrobes who had rushed out when they heard the commotion. I felt my stomach drop when I recognized one of the officers. He was a rookie who had just transferred from a big city where HOA letters were common. Officer Martinez, according to his nameplate, looked young and eager to prove himself. He wouldn't know our area's history or understand that Deborah's claims were complete nonsense. The senior officers looked uncomfortable, but the rookie seemed ready to take action, and I noticed him glancing at Deborah's official-looking papers, clearly impressed by how real they seemed. Deborah set up her portable speaker with theatrical flair, even tapping the microphone 3 times, which sent a screeching feedback noise across the morning air and made several dogs start barking. "Ladies and gentlemen, fellow concerned citizens," she began, her voice booming across our property. "Today, we take back our community from those who would destroy our property values and quality of life. For too long, we've allowed this eyesore to operate without oversight, without rules, without consideration for the hard-working families who call this area home." She pointed dramatically at our porch, where Amelia sat calmly sipping her morning coffee, still in her bathrobe and slippers. My wife looked completely unfazed, but I noticed her eyes were tracking every movement of every person. She had positioned herself perfectly, visible to all the cameras, but with the rising sun behind her, making it hard for anyone to get a clear photo of her face. "Officers," Deborah declared, "this woman is illegally occupying HOA property. I have here an eviction notice properly filed with the county, demanding she and her husband leave immediately." The papers she waved looked incredibly official. From where I stood, I could see an embossed seal, multiple signatures, and what looked like county letterhead. She had clearly spent a lot of money on these forgeries, as they were far more sophisticated than her previous attempts. The rookie officer stepped forward, looking uncomfortable but trying to be professional. He examined the papers Deborah thrust at him, his eyes widening as he read. This looks legitimate," he said to his senior partner. "It has all the right stamps and the correct filing numbers." "Ma'am," Officer Martinez said to Amelia, his voice trying to sound authoritative despite his obvious nervousness, "I'm going to need you to step down from the porch while we sort this out." His hand moved to his utility belt, not in a threatening way, but to show he was taking this seriously. "Officer," I interrupted, my voice shaking with anger and fear, "this is our home. We've owned it for 15 years. Here's our deed, our property tax records, everything." I fumbled with the folder of documents we kept handy, nearly dropping them in my haste as my hands trembled. "These papers are more important than that," Deborah announced triumphantly, her voice carrying across the crowd. "The Oak Valley HOA has used its right of eminent domain for community improvement. This land is needed for community beautification. We're going to transform this eyesore into a proper community garden that everyone can enjoy." She turned to the crowd, playing to the cameras. "Imagine it. Instead of smelly horses and ugly fences, we'll have walking paths, flower gardens, and a playground for your children. HOAs don't have eminent domain powers," Amelia said calmly. Not moving from her chair, she took another sip of coffee, the very picture of calm confidence. "And even if they did, which they absolutely don't, you'd need a court order signed by a judge, not something you printed at home. Also, eminent domain requires fair payment and a proper legal process. You can't just show up with police and demand someone leave their property." Her voice was clear and carried across the yard, with each word carefully spoken for the cameras. "How dare you?" Deborah screeched, her carefully maintained composure finally starting to crack. A strand of her perfectly styled hair fell into her face, and she angrily jabbed it back into place. "You think you're so smart, sitting there in your bathrobe like you own the place." "I do own the place," Amelia replied mildly. "That's kind of the point." The crowd let out a nervous laugh, and Deborah's face turned a deeper shade of red than her suit. "Officers, I demand you arrest her immediately for trespassing and failing to comply with a lawful order. I have followed every legal procedure. I have filed the correct paperwork. I am the duly elected president of the Oak Valley HOA, and my authority will be respected." The crowd was growing by the minute, with phones out everywhere, recording the drama. Cars were pulling over on the main road, and their drivers were joining the spectacle. Billy's live stream now showed 50,000 viewers, with comments flooding. In so fast they were just a blur. I caught glimpses of them. "Is this real? Someone call the news. And this is better than reality TV. And that woman in the bathrobe is a savage." The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I noticed some neighbors were recording from multiple angles, clearly planning to post their own versions of the events. The rookie officer looked more and more flustered, with sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool morning air. "Ma'am, I really need you to step down while we verify these documents. This is for everyone's safety," he pleaded. He glanced nervously between Amelia and Deborah, clearly out of his depth. Two other officers flanked him, their hands resting on their utility belts. They looked uncomfortable, but were ready to act if ordered. My heart was racing. This was actually happening. This crazy woman with her fake papers might actually get my wife arrested on our own property. "John," Amelia said softly, finally setting her coffee cup down on the small table beside her chair. The clink of the ceramic on the wood seemed unnaturally loud in the tense silence. "Remember what I said. Trust me." She stood up slowly, smoothing her bathrobe with deliberate calm. Every movement was measured and controlled. The entire crowd seemed to hold its breath. I saw neighbors I'd known for years leaning forward, some with their hands over their mouths in shock. Then, she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. The movement was smooth and practiced. When she spoke, her entire attitude had transformed. Gone was the soft-spoken woman who tended our garden and read horse-training magazines in bed. Her spine straightened, her shoulders squared, and her voice became crisp and authoritative, carrying across the entire property with the force of someone used to being obeyed. "This is Special Agent Miller, Code 7 at my residence. Federal crime in progress. Multiple witnesses present. Roll units now." She paused, listening to the response on her phone. "Confirmed. Full tactical response authorized. ETA." The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. A pin-drop silence fell over the crowd. Even the morning birds seemed to stop chirping. The rookie officer froze in the middle of a step, his foot literally hanging in the air. Did she just say special agent?" One of the other officers whispered, his face draining of color. The senior officer's hand moved to his radio, suddenly very interested in checking what they had just heard. Deborah laughed, but it was a forced, almost hysterical sound. The laugh cracked halfway through, revealing her sudden panic. "Nice try. Pretending to call for help. This is just another one of your tricks. She's probably calling her cousin or her lawyer. Or someone. Officers, arrest her now. Don't fall for this pathetic act." But her voice had lost its commanding tone. It was now shrill and desperate. I noticed her hands were shaking as she clutched her fake documents. The police officers had stopped moving forward. They exchanged uncertain glances, their years of training kicking in. The senior officer was now speaking rapidly into his radio, his face growing more concerned with each response. The rookie looked like he wanted to sink into the ground. "Hold on," the senior officer said, raising a hand. "Let's just wait a minute. Everyone stay calm." His entire attitude had shifted from uncomfortable duty to high alert. What are you waiting for?" Deborah screamed, her face turning an alarming shade of purple that clashed horribly with her red suit. Spittle flew from her mouth as she ranted. "She's nobody, just a rancher's wife playing pretend. I have the authority here. I am the president of the HOA. I have connections. I know people in the mayor's office, the governor's office. You'll all lose your jobs if you don't do as I say." Right now, she was practically jumping up and down in her designer heels, reminding me of a toddler throwing a tantrum. Amelia checked her watch with the same calm she'd shown all along, as if federal agents showing up at our ranch was as routine as the morning paper delivery. 18 minutes out, she announced to no one in particular. Then, looking directly at Deborah, she added, "You might want to sit down, Mrs. Reynolds. You're about to have a very bad day." The quiet confidence in her voice sent chills down my spine. This wasn't my wife speaking. This was someone else entirely. Someone I had apparently been living with for 15 years without truly knowing. Those were the longest 18 minutes of my life. Deborah continued ranting, switching between demands for immediate action and wild accusations about our criminal enterprise. She pulled out her phone, trying to call her so-called connections, but her hands were shaking so badly she kept dropping. The crowd grew larger, with Billy's stream hitting 100,000 viewers. Comments flew by in multiple languages as the stream was shared globally. "Is she really FBI? This has to be a bluff. Oh my God, what if it's real? Karen's about to get served. Plot twist of the century. Someone check if this is a movie promotion. Who exactly did my gentle wife just call? And why did she sound like a completely different person?" Before the big reveal, "What job do you think Amelia really has?" Wrong answers only. The first black SUV appeared over the hill leading to our property, and the crowd collectively gasped. It wasn't just any vehicle. It was clearly a government SUV, with tinted windows and the kind of subtle antennas that meant business. Then came another, and another, and another. 4 identical vehicles roared onto our ranch, their engines powerful and perfectly timed like a military operation. They positioned themselves with a precision that made the local police cars look like toy vehicles arranged by a child. The lead vehicle's license plate was government-issued, and I could see the small FBI seal on the door as it pulled closer. The doors opened all at once, with a practiced precision that spoke of countless training exercises. 12 FBI agents in full tactical gear jumped out. They looked like they were executing a raid on a terrorist cell, not responding to a neighborhood dispute. Their movements were smooth and practiced, with each agent knowing exactly where to position themselves. The crowd stumbled backward in shock, some people tripping over each other in their haste to get out of the way. Several people stopped recording, suddenly afraid they might get in trouble just for being there. Others pressed closer, unable to resist documenting this incredible drama, their phones shaking in their excitement. The agents wore full tactical gear, bulletproof vests with FBI in bright yellow letters, and utility belts loaded with equipment. Their expressions were all business. Their boots made synchronized thuds on our gravel driveway as they spread out, creating a perimeter that somehow managed to look both protective and intimidating. Deborah's legs visibly shook, and her designer heels clicked against each other like castanets. Her perfect composure cracked like a dam breaking. Her mascara, which was already running, now streamed down her face in black rivers, making her look like a crazed raccoon. "No, no," she gasped, her voice breaking with each word. "This can't be happening. This is impossible. You're lying. This is all fake. Just like everything else. You hired actors. This is an elaborate revenge. I'm the victim here. They're terrorizing me." She looked around wildly, seeking support from the crowd, but only found phones recording her breakdown. She spun to face the local police officers, who had backed away significantly to give the federal agents plenty of space. "Don't you see? They're all actors. This is an elaborate HOA hoax. Check their badges. Check their vehicles. This can't be real. I did my research. She's nobody. She tends gardens. She shovels horse manure. She wears flannel shirts and rubber boots. She can't be FBI." Her voice cracked with hysteria, and she actually crawled a few feet toward the police officers before an FBI agent gently but firmly stopped her. Amelia walked down from the porch with measured steps, each footfall deliberate and confident. The morning sun caught her hair, and despite being in a bathrobe, she somehow managed to look more authoritative than anyone else present. She reached into her bathrobe pocket with the smooth motion of someone who had done it 1,000 times before. What she pulled out made my heart skip a beat. It was the black card I had found in her jacket. Except now, in the morning sun, I could see it clearly. It wasn't a hotel key card or a parking pass. It was a leather fold with the FBI seal embossed in gold. When she flipped it open, the gold badge inside gleamed like a beacon of justice. "I'm Special Agent in Charge, Amelia Miller," she announced, her voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed without question. Each word was crisp, clear, and impossible to misunderstand. "I oversee the white-collar crime division for this region. 3 states, to be precise. Mrs. Reynolds, you're under arrest for forgery of government documents, impersonation of federal authority, fraud across state lines, conspiracy to commit property theft, and violation of federal housing laws. You have the right to remain silent," she continued with the Miranda rights, her voice never wavering. "No," Deborah wailed. Stumbling backward and catching her heels in the gravel, she fell again, landing hard on her backside, her skirt riding up embarrassingly. "I didn't know." "How could I know? You were supposed to be nobody. Just a stupid rancher's wife who plants flowers and mucks out stalls. You wear overalls. You have dirt under your fingernails. You can't be FBI. This is entrapment. You tricked me. You pretended to be someone else." Tears streamed down her face, creating rivers of black mascara that dripped onto her red suit. "That stupid rancher's wife has been documenting your crimes for 6 months," Amelia continued, completely unmoved by the dramatic display. She pulled out a tablet from another pocket. "How many pockets did that bathrobe have?" and began scrolling through files. "Every fake document you created, every fraudulent claim you made, every family you threatened, all documented, all recorded, all ready for prosecution. Did you really think you could forge county documents and impersonate federal authority? Without triggering our systems, our computers flag certain combinations of words and actions. When you created those fake eviction papers yesterday, using a template you downloaded from a Russian website, yes, we tracked that too. You committed a federal crime." The crowd was absolutely buzzing now, like a hive of excited bees that had just discovered a field of flowers. Every social media platform exploded with the news. News apps started sending push notifications as the story went viral. Billy had given up trying to narrate and just held his phone steady, occasionally muttering, "Oh, my lord," or "Y'all seeing this," or "This is the best day of my life." His viewer count passed 400, 0, and kept climbing. Someone in the crowd yelled, "Billy, you're gonna be famous." He just grinned and kept filming. 47 families. Mrs. Reynolds, Amelia continued, stepping closer to where Deborah was cowering. The federal agents had formed a loose circle, preventing any escape attempt while maintaining a professional distance. 47 families across 5 states who fell victim to your fake HOA schemes. Over $1 million in fraudulent fines collected. Let me tell you some of their names. The Washingtons in Arizona. You convinced them they had to pay $5,000 or lose their home. They borrowed against their retirement. Mrs. Wilson in Nevada, a widow on a fixed income, who you threatened until she paid your fake fines with her late husband's life insurance. Asterisk it. Wasn't illegal, Deborah shrieked desperately, her mascara running down her cheeks in black streams that made her look like a demented raccoon. HOA letters are legitimate organizations. I was trying to improve communities, make neighborhoods better, increase property values. That's not a crime. She tried to stand, but slipped in the gravel again, her expensive suit now completely ruined. You don't understand. These people needed structure. They needed rules. They needed someone to take charge. Legitimate HOAs don't forge government documents, Amelia replied coolly, showing the tablet screen to the lead agent, who nodded. They don't impersonate county officials or create fake eviction notices with forged county seals. They don't use templates from foreign fraud websites. And they certainly don't flee states when investigations begin. Reno, 2018. Phoenix, 2019. Albuquerque, 2020. Las Vegas, 2021. And now here. Did you think we wouldn't notice the pattern? She nodded to her team. Agent Davis, Agent Smith, take her into custody. 2 agents moved forward with practiced efficiency. helping Deborah to her feet with professional courtesy, despite her attempts to resist. "Don't touch me. I know my rights. I want my lawyer. I want to call the mayor, the governor, the president." Deborah tried to run, but in her pencil skirt and heels, she only made it about 3 steps before her ankle turned, and she would have fallen face first into the gravel if Agent Smith hadn't caught her arm. The sight of her being helped up and cuffed, covered in dirt and grass stains, was both shocking and deeply satisfying. Her perfect hair was now a mess. Her makeup was completely destroyed, and her power suit was ruined beyond any dry cleaner's ability to save it. "I'll sue," she screamed as they cuffed her, spittle flying from her mouth. "I'll sue everyone. This is entrapment. You set me up. You tricked me into committing crimes. This is unconstitutional. I'm a taxpayer. I pay your salary." Her voice rose to a pitch that made dogs 3 blocks away start barking. "Actually," Amelia said conversationally, pulling up another file on her tablet, "you set yourself up. Would you like me to read some of your greatest hits? Here's an email from 3 years ago where you bragged to your sister about, quote, finding another neighborhood of suckers who don't know whole law. Or how about this text to your accomplice in Nevada? Oh, yes, we have him too. We picked him up yesterday in it. You discuss the best ways to forge county letterheads. My personal favorite is this one, where you research how to intimidate homeowners legally and then bookmark a site about forgery techniques." Deborah went silent, her face cycling through colors I didn't know humans could achieve, from red to purple to white to green. "We have everything, Mrs. Reynolds," Amelia said. "Every fake HOA you created, every family you terrorized, every dollar you stole. Your laptop, which we seized this morning with a warrant, contained detailed spreadsheets of your victims, templates for fake documents, and a folder actually labeled suckers, with photographs of your targets. Your mistake wasn't just trying to run your scam here. It was trying to evict a federal agent from her own home using forged government documents. That moved you from state crimes to federal crimes, and right into my jurisdiction." The local police officers looked stunned. The rookie who had almost arrested Amelia appeared ready to faint. He was actually swaying on his feet, and the senior officer had to steady him. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry," Officer Martinez stammered, his face flushed with embarrassment. "I didn't know. The papers looked so official. I've never seen forgeries that good." His voice trailed off as he realized he had almost arrested a federal agent in front of hundreds of witnesses and thousands of online viewers. "They were excellent forgeries," Amelia acknowledged, showing surprising kindness to the mortified rookie. "Mrs. Reynolds has perfected her craft over the years. She's had a lot of practice. That's why we've been tracking her when she appeared in our system after creating the fake HOA here. I couldn't believe my luck. A known scammer moving in next door to a federal agent. It was like Christmas morning. I knew if I just waited and documented everything, she'd eventually escalate to federal crimes. The forged eviction notice with the fake county seal. That was the federal crime we needed." Billy's stream had now hit 500,000 viewers, and the comment section had become a party. "Justice served. Best plot twist ever. Never mess with quiet neighbors. FBI Karen is my hero." The hashtag Karen vs FBI was trending #1 nationally, and news outlets were already picking up the story. I could see at least 3 people on phones, and their excited voices sounded like reporters describing the scene. As they loaded Deborah into an FBI vehicle, she made one last desperate plea, her voice hoarse from screaming. "You don't understand. This place needed rules. It needed structure. They have 8 horses, 8. The smell, the noise, the property values. Won't someone think of the property values?" She looked around wildly at the crowd, seeking any sign of support, but only found phones recording her final meltdown. "Our property is zoned agricultural," Amelia said patiently, as if explaining to a child. "We have all the proper permits for our horses. We've operated this ranch legally for 15 years. The only crime here was yours." How long had the FBI been watching Deborah? And more importantly, how long had I been married to a federal agent? It was a holy plot twist. As the dust settled on our property and the last of the neighbors drifted away, I found myself alone with Amelia, or should I say, Special Agent in Charge Miller. The morning's adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me with a million questions and the strange realization that I'd been married to a federal agent for 15 years without knowing it. We sat on our porch in the same spot where she had calmly sipped her coffee while a crazy woman tried to have her arrested. "So," I said finally, "do you want to tell me how my horse-loving, garden-tending wife is secretly running FBI operations across 3 states?" She laughed, and it was the same warm laugh I had fallen in love with. "I do love horses and gardening. Those parts weren't lies, John. I just also happened to catch white-collar criminals. 15 years. "Amelia," I said, still in disbelief, "we've been married 15 years, and you never mentioned being a federal agent. You never asked what specific government desk I worked at," she pointed out. I said federal building. That was entirely accurate. But the late-night calls, the business trips, all real cases. This one just happened to land literally in our backyard. When Deborah's name popped up in our system, I couldn't believe it. A known scammer moving in next door. It was like Christmas morning for a federal agent. Over the next few days, the full scope of Deborah's crimes came to light. It was 7 states, not 5, and 53 families victimized, not 47. She had stolen over $2.5 million through her fake HOA schemes, moving whenever authorities got close. Her biggest mistake was trying to run her con on a federal agent. The trial was quick, with mountains of evidence and her crimes captured on multiple live streams. Deborah Reynolds received 7 years in federal prison and was ordered to pay back all her victims. She became an internet legend known as FBI Karen, a cautionary tale about picking your targets carefully. Billy's videos of the whole saga hit 10 million views combined, and he became a minor internet celebrity, the grandfather who exposed Karen. Our ranch returned to its peaceful state, though now with a new addition. Amelia had a sign made as a joke, but I insisted on keeping it up. It reads, "HOA Free Ranch, protected by the FBI. Any other secrets I should know about?" I asked her one evening, "Are you secretly with the CIA, NSA, or Space Force?" She laughed, leaning against my shoulder. "Just the FBI. Though, I do make a mean apple pie. The recipe is classified. I'm proud of you," I told her. "My wife, the federal agent who protected our home. I've been protecting it for 15 years, she said softly. "This time, you just got to watch. What would you do if you discovered your spouse had been secretly protecting you all along?" If you have a crazy Karen story, drop it below. We might feature the best ones in part 2.